to the Open Space and Ecology Committee meeting of October 23rd of 2024. To make a remote public comment, please email aetherton@Brisbane ecos.org or join us at brisbaneca.org/Zoom. And please use the latest Zoom version, and the webinar ID is 976-429-50160. This is the Open Space and Ecology Committee meeting. Next slide, please.
Future reference, you don't have to say all that, Jason.
Oh, thank you. Take two. Welcome. I'd like to call the roll, please.
You did so great on it.
Thank you. Well, you know, back during the pandemic, we did the whole thing. We read it all out. I don't know. Call the roll, please. Hello. Yes, Mayor Rogers?
I am here. Yes.
Hi,
Thank
yay.
you.
Michelle Salmon?
I'm here.
Jason Noonan present. Aaron?
I'm here.
Here. And Anthony Walker.
Here as well. Hello.
Thank you. Yay. We have a quorum of 5. And then we'll make a move to consider any request of a committee member to attend the meeting remotely under the emergency circumstances of AB 2449. Is that in action?
Not necessary.
Not necessary. Good. So I move, would someone like to move that we adopt the agenda?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. The agenda is adopted, and now time for announcements. Are there any oral communications? We received a letter from David Schooley, and we put that in the record. Are there any other oral communications? No.
I would like to, if we have time in our next meeting, agendize the subject of David Schooley's letter about the trees that he wishes for the city to make sure that they protect, that have their natives that have been planted for many years. So I'd like to, if that's possible, agendize that for our next meeting.
So,
I'm sorry, what did you want to agendize?
the request is to agendize a short discussion of David Schooley's letter from this meeting.
Is there any action? I mean,
Yeah,
staff
the
is,
action would be for us to acknowledge that these are now city trees and that we should be taking care of them because they've been there for a long time and they're,
yeah, at the staff level, we've already passed that on to staff that maintains our trees. I don't know that OSEC needs to officially,
So the staff
Tell
is
us.
now treating them like city trees and looking after them?
yeah.
Okay, so
okay.
I guess we're good.
Are we good? Are they truly taking care of them? I mean, it's part of the tree committee stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's what the whole committee would do. Do you want to like write a formal letter to the council? I mean,
Yeah.
you told
That-
staff, we'll do it.
Okay, sounds good to me. Any other oral communications? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of August 20? Do we need to approve both?
Yes.
Adrian? Okay.
And I have a question.
Okay, good. So we start with August 28th first. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? or do
No,
you-
I have a question.
Go for the question first.
Okay, I did not understand a couple of things. One, under staff updates, I did not understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th bullet point. After some back and forth on Cal EVIP reporting for DCFC at City Hall, trying to close it out. What does that mean? That is completely incomprehensible to me.
Cali VIP is a state EV grant program that we got funding for our EV charging sites about 4 or so years ago almost. DCFC is direct current fast charger or a level 3 charging
what's
station.
What, I don't understand what you're trying to say here, that there's some back and forth on reporting.
Yes, on a grant, we have to report how we use the funds and provide them a lot of documentation for a state grant. And they were very picky and needed all of their I's dotted and T's crossed. And so there was a lot of back and forth in the reporting for the grant
Okay,
that we
well,
got for the fast charger.
As minutes, that's really not very understandable for the average person to understand. You know, because you know what all these acronyms are and what the story was, but we could be more clear on that. And then under Kinzer, the number one, the first one, reported discussing with code enforcement officer who's using an app to identify plants from invasive species. It's important of which app he's actually using, because some of them are really not accurate at all. And just yesterday, I had an inquiry, an app, a Siri app, identified a plant on San Bruno Mountain as being smilax, and it wasn't. It was California honeysuckle. And so I'm concerned that we are using if he's using an app to identify invasive species, that he's using one that actually identifies them correctly. I don't know how we can do that. I mean, what app is he using?
I don't know, but I know it's a paid app. It's not Siri.
Okay. Can we find that out just to make sure that it is one that actually,
Yeah, I can note that. Yeah.
okay. That was all I had.
Okay, so that was the first minutes, and then,
Oh, I did have one question on the minutes, so I don't want to forget.
go ahead.
On the next page about the Crocker Trail frog habitat, it says Kinzer recently presented the issue to the new city manager, asked for additional information. The city wants the property owner's agreement for work to be done on the property. Did we get that yet, Karen? Because we asked for that too.
Did I do a written email
Did you
to
get
them?
the guy to sign off on what we discussed at our meeting? Or should we discuss that in staff, committee updates?
I was going to send him an email. That's what you suggested, and I haven't done that yet. I don't have any reason to think that he's not. He was agreeable at the meeting.
Right, but we at the after the meeting, we agreed that we would get a written consent from him before starting any work.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Okay.
it's about time we started some work, because it's gonna rain soon, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are looking at, Paul asked if for the first effort that we could use a contractor to remove some of the material. So we're working on getting a quote to see if that's possible.
Yeah, but let's get that written agreement from that guy before we
Yeah.
dig in, so to speak. Thank you.
Okay, so that's just an email from him that we're looking for, yeah, I guess.
I was going to email him
Okay,
and get
good.
his
Okay, good.
confirmation of that, yeah.
All right, so that's the first minutes, and then we'll go to the one, I was not here for the 25th. Are there any comments on the 25th? Any objection or comments or questions?
Can we get a motion to
I'm-
approve the August minutes as?
I was
I was
going,
about to make a motion to
Corrections?
approve both.
I was going to do them together, yeah.
But you have to abstain from the one you weren't here, so we should do them separate.
Okay, so.
It would,
may-
it would be
can I-
easier since they're listed separately on the agenda as
I
well.
would like to make a motion to approve the first set of minutes, and I would make a second motion to approve the second set of minutes.
I would second the first motion, and I would second the second motion.
Okay, so both motions are up. Let me start with the first, motion to approve the first set of minutes from August 28th. All in favor?
I don't think I was here.
Okay,
I think I was absent for August,
right,
right, so I can't.
okay, so.
But the second one for sure.
So yes for me,
Yes for me.
and you weren't on the committee yet.
Oh, well, for the first, you were doing the first one.
Yeah, so you have to abstain.
here.
Yes, to all the things.
Okay, so, we don't have enough votes to approve the 28th here. Is this, two persons not present,
1, 2, 3. We have three.
We-
Three approve, and that's a majority of the people present, which
I
is a
was here.
quorum,
I
so I
was
think
here.
you're
Good.
fine.
Yeah, we're
good,
good.
yes. All in
Okay,
favor
so
of the three of us?
Everyone is approving for September, but who's abstaining?
Jason,
I have
because he
to
wasn't
And
here.
Walker. Okay.
And Becker, Salmon, and Noonan approve,
And Walker.
and, no, but Walker was.
September, she said September then.
I'm saying, I'm finishing my sentence,
sorry.
which is August 28th.
Yeah.
Becker, Noonan, and Walker approve the 28th. Good. Okay,
that?
what's next?
Aaron moved. Michelle seconded?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I moved both, and Michelle seconded both, and we're good. New business, vegetation management presentation by RECON Environmental. Would that be Benjamin or Tim?
Promote them. Promote whoever is the speaker, sorry.
Apologies, not allowed to talk. Oh, promote a panelist. Oh, both of you.
Hello, hello.
So quick introduction. Do I need to allow to talk?
If you promote to panelists, then they have permission.
Oh, okay. And is Benjamin Rose part of your team? Tim?
Hi, it's Tim here. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes. And it looks like you are. Okay, just a quick introduction. We finally found another contractor to maintain the Brisbane Acres Forest. They are RECON Environmental, is that right? Blanking all of a sudden. And they have done their first year in the past maybe a month or two up at the acres, getting familiar with a site activity permit and all of the ins and outs of our properties. So they're here to talk to you about what they've done this year.
Thank you.
And so my name is Tim Bonacorsi. I'm the Habitat Restoration Director at RECON Environmental. Joining me is Ben Rose. He's our crew chief that managed this project on the ground. And we have a PowerPoint presentation that Ben is going to share from his screen. It's working. And I will start some introduction, and then I will let Ben go ahead. If it's okay for me to start, let me know.
Please, yeah.
Screen just went off. Oh, it's coming back.
We can go ahead. Michelle's screen will come back.
Okay. So yeah, we RECON Environmental, we started on this project this year, the Brisbane Acres project, and we have, you can go to the next slide then. So just to tell you a little bit about us, we're a habitat restoration consultant firm and based in California. Our headquarters is in San Diego, and we have an office here in Oakland, and we employee owned and focus on a full service of environmental services. We do permitting, we do field work, and we do planning and everything in between. We have a team of project managers and a field crew. We have a full GIS staff, full production staff. And yeah, so we've been working in the Bay Area for about 8 years, and we have a lot of long-term relationships with agencies from Fish and Wildlife Service, California State Parks, and various counties and cities. And so, yeah, here's a map of some of our projects around the Bay Area. We've been working kind of all over the place. Just as this project specifically, technology was a great aid. So we use ArcGIS field maps for recording all of our data and for all of our mapping, and to help navigate the parcels and find where people had worked before and where they're going to start the next day for all the weed treatments. And our GIS support team would update maps regularly and track our progress. And before we started, we would use CalFlora to see past observations of what plants have been observed within your site. Big part of RECON is safety, especially for this project. We had many days working, and maybe it was very hot, and the hill is steep, and the crew needs to make sure they take care of their health. We have a heat illness prevention program at RECON for the staff. For any pesticide use projects, we have multiple QALs, California certified applicators on our staff. We are registered in multiple counties around the Bay Area. We have first aid and CPR training, OSHA certified. Try to have everyone stretch and flex in the morning before they hike up the hills, and weekly tailgate trainings. So I'm going to let Ben, he was our manager on the field. I did the nesting bird clearance surveys and checked out the site and helped manage it, but he was there every day, so he'll tell you a lot more about the project.
Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me? I've got
Yeah.
kind of a bad mic here. Okay. Let me go quickly back to our outline. Okay, so you kind of saw about us already, and we talked a little bit about safety. I'm going to talk about kind of our goals for this project briefly. I'll talk about how we prepared and the different things that we did to approach this project, which was a little different than some of our other work. I will discuss like the target species plants that we were looking for, good and bad. And then I'll kind of go over like our methodology, what exactly we were doing out there to support the environment and the habitats that we were looking at. And then finally, I'll talk about some of the challenges that we face and kind of looking forward from here, and go over some of our findings and some of the things that we learned just from working over at Brisbane.
Is there the map that you shared there, Benjamin, with the little red stars on it? Can you, is there a flavor to the kind of work that you're doing there? Is it a theme, or are they all different manner of things, or what's involved with the projects you have there?
There is a theme. I mean, almost all the work that we do involves habitat restoration, but with this map, all of these projects are pretty diverse, I would say. And Tim can go over kind of a little bit more of the work that we do if he wants to quickly. But yeah, it's a very wide range of habitat restoration and plant management and things like that.
Okay, let me let you proceed, and if I feel like we need to double back, we can.
Sure. Okay, so quickly we'll talk about goals. Here's a shot of a sunrise, beautiful view. And that was because due to the bird nesting surveys, we had some crew out there very, very early in the morning to make the most of our observational skills. So the long-term goals with this project is what we want primarily is to disrupt the most aggressive of the invasive species in Brisbane acres. So essentially to disrupt the monocultures that are developing there, which is a very challenging and long-term project. But I think what we did out there represents a pretty good start to that. So everybody's probably aware, generally a monoculture is made up of more aggressive invasive plants, and these tend to disrupt the native habitats, which can often represent a risk both to the native plants and animals in the area, and also can represent risks to just the human populations as well, which I'll go over in a bit. But just what I mean by that primarily is things like erosion control and just the wildland urban interface. When you take out the native species somewhere, and when new species come in that are these developing certain monocultures, over time the habitat will change to the point where it'll become unrecognizable and can pretty drastically change how the wildlands in the area interact with the people and vice versa. So our goal is to kind of try and support the native plants and reestablish some of these plants to continue kind of the standard functions of the native habitat. So by clearing out the invasives, we're attempting to kind of increase the available space for the native species. And the real long-term goal, very long-term, would be to get this into kind of a self-sustaining system where the ecosystem is healthy and can kind of continue on its own without the human input, without an intensive kind of regimen to control the invasive plants. And to drive that point home,
Benjamin, did you do a lot of scabiosa removal then? Because I see you had scabiosa there on the screen.
We did not, no.
I hope you're not showing that as an example of something you're saving. That's very invasive on San Bruno Mountain.
Good to know.
Yeah, probably good to leave off the sheet.
Noted. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Back to just in terms of the wildland urban interface.
Sure.
Here's a beautiful coyote that we saw hanging out there. Not very afraid of humans out there, which kind of is I mean, it's great to see them and they look quite healthy, but as habitats change, Brisbane is definitely very very close, very, very integrated with the native, ecology in the area. So when we see when we disrupt, a native habitat, the animals will adapt as well, and that can lead to different interactions between people, animals, plants, etc. So here's a horned owl in the area that we saw on our bird survey. But so those are our long-term goals, which are not necessarily achievable in a short period of time. Our short-term goals, our more immediate goals, were to take what we had available in terms of time and budget, and to remove the target invasive species, as well as possible, and to get as many as possible in that time frame. And in the process, we want to obviously avoid habitat disruptions from our own, actions as much as possible.
I think.
I'd like to know which species
Yeah.
I do have can I ask a
Go ahead.
question?
Why don't we let him do his thing? And if you jot your question down, we can come back to it. Okay, just let him get through.
Okay.
Yeah, we will definitely do questions at the end as well. Okay. And then, of course, our goals are to be effective, efficient, and, as mentioned before, we want to be as safe as possible. So in terms of what we were planning to do, our goals, we had a list of target species, and in order to remove those, we had a process of locating and then mechanically removing and then treating with herbicides to prevent these plants from resprouting immediately. And so within the acknowledged time frame and budget restrictions, our goals essentially were to kind of decide what the focus areas were and to pinpoint, where we want to work, where we want to, start our efforts, and what will be like the most important areas to look at. So this is just a shot of kind of a general overview. Beautiful native plants in the back, tons of nice tree coverage. But in the front is kind of the areas that we were working. It was more open space, and that's where we're seeing, a lot of this, the 3 native species that we focused on. And you can see some of the
Okay,
work
I asked Michelle to hold off on the question, but it's kind of killing me now. What's the list? What are you focusing on here? What are the species?
Yeah, I will.
'Cause we're seeing a lot of pretty pictures of the mountain, but I think everyone here has seen these views.
Absolutely, yeah. I will go over the 3
Yes.
primary ones that we're looking at right
Thanks.
now. Okay, so noteworthy plants. So number 1, French broom. I think a lot of people are probably aware there's a major French broom infestation, Brisbane acres. So what that means is pretty much, let me go to the map really fast, but okay, so as you can see, the yellow here is the French broom. This is where we were focusing primarily. This is probably the plant that we took out the most general vegetation mass of. What we're looking at is the red outline is our work area. The French broom does not care about that boundary. It is, kind of coating many of these areas and many places outside of our boundary. And so our ability to remove it from inside these polygons doesn't change the fact that it can come right back over, of course. But because it's such a major infestation, we were planning to, just take out as much of this plant as possible and to kind of create these open areas where it won't just immediately reseed for the next season and come back and kind of reinfest.
What methods did you use? Did you use poison with that, or pulling, or what'd you do?
Yeah, so primarily we were cutting these at the base of the stem and then applying herbicide in a slightly higher concentration to the stem, which will, prevent any resprouting from the root system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, member of the Legume family. Yeah, like I said, this is the most common plant. And then what we're seeing with this is there's very well-established plants out there, taller than a person. Some of them were, drying out and dead. They had a lot of dried seeds on them. So obviously it's going to create a seed bank. But in between these huge, well-established plants, there are also carpets of many smaller seedlings. So it was a matter of kind of managing both the large and the small. And we had a couple of different methods for taking out the smaller kind of carpets of seedlings as well, which would have been more of a foliar treatment with the herbicide at a lower concentration. This plant grows in large clusters. It's not kind of a standalone, like single plant kind of thing. It grows in clumps.
I have a quick question, Benjamin, from Michelle.
Are you using weed wrenches to do any of this work. That's the most effective tool for removing broom that is not terribly large or, and it removes it permanently with the roots. Are you familiar with using a weed wrench?
A little bit, yeah. We were actually using just standard loppers to cut the stem instead of pulling out the root system, which is hence the herbicide application.
And what's the herbicide you're using?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And what herbicide are you using?
We were using Roundup Custom.
Using what?
Oh, sorry. This was a Roundup Custom.
It's breaking up when we couldn't hear your answer.
I think you
Sorry.
said Roundup Custom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is glyphosate.
Yeah. And can I speak on the weed wrench?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if possible, like if you're in a location where you are allowed to cut and then daub the stems, which is very effective, weed wrenching is also very effective, but it creates so much ground disturbance, which creates new germination sites for the seeds that are kind of littered all over the place, that we've found, especially working with East Bay Parks, that using a weed wrench is very effective, but also can create a large new germination of all the French broom the next year.
Okay, I'm just concerned about using Roundup in any watershed areas at all, where there might be runoff that goes into, of course, it's a dry season, but yeah, okay. I'll be interested to see how that works.
I will say this is we're using Roundup Custom, which is aquatic approved, but yeah, understandable. Yeah.
And in the future, I can discuss with Karen about if there is some desire to switch to a different method to be purely mechanical.
Okay, thank you.
The second primary target species we're looking at is this Cotoneaster, which is a kind of common ornamental plant people like to grow in gardens and things like that. Unlike the French broom, this plant kind of grows sometimes on its own. You'll find just a random plant, isolated from other plants in the population. But they can get big, and they also can grow in clumps occasionally. The Cotoneaster had a similar growth pattern. There were some that were very well established, like the picture on the left, and larger than that as well. And then we were also finding seedlings. It's kind of a year-round germination. So this plant is kind of a shrub, so the stems get a bit thicker than the French broom. Here's a shot of probably one of the more well-established ones in the area, and the picture on the right is the after there. Like I said, this is a process of clearing out some wonderful new open habitat space for the native species to come back in over time. And then our third target species is the Monterey pine, which is actually a plant native to Monterey and has a very small native range, and is often considered actually like threatened or endangered in its native range, but the species was kind of cultivated over time for use as a lumber, and is now pretty problematic, invasive as well. This pine grows like many other pines. I mean, we're seeing very large trees out there. A few of these are well established, well over our heads. And then there were also, smaller saplings as well. So we were primarily taking out saplings and smaller. We didn't focus on any of the larger trees because we weren't doing any of the gas-powered mechanical work out there. In the future, of course, the Monterey pines will be a species that will be probably easier to come up with a nice, we'll be able to take out the larger species easily to keep that seed bank from developing as much. But that'll take, a lot more fire mitigation and things like that to get the chainsaws and stuff going out there.
And can I say something? So we will be planning to use electrical chainsaws to cut those down in the future. When we were working, it was very hot, and even electric chainsaws can be a fire risk. I spoke with the county, one of the rangers, about this, and he was very concerned about us using any internal combustion engine or even anything that would get hot, like a chainsaw, bar. So we did not do that this year. If we work on a different season, we can tackle those big ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
Example on the left there, some of the more established pines. Okay, and there were a few other target species that we were keeping an eye out for, but these are much less well established in the area. So there's acacias, of course. We didn't notice any acacias in the areas that we were focusing on. There's fennel, that is definitely pretty widespread out there. We cut and treated a couple of fennel, but definitely not as big of a problem as the other 3 plants. And then blackberry, we didn't notice blackberry in our work site, but I know there's a lot of blackberry in the neighboring areas. So in the future, or potentially in some of the spots that we weren't working, there's a good chance that some of the Himalayan blackberry is established. Okay, I kind of already talked about our methods, but I'll show a couple more photos and get through this quickly. But like I said, our primary method, just cutting the stems as close to the base as possible, applying a very small amount of high concentration herbicide, and then kind of removing the brush, cutting it into very small piles to reduce fire danger, and then kind of cleaning up the area that we remove the plants from as best as possible. Ideally, yeah, without disrupting too much of the neighboring plants or the soil there. And a lot of these photos are, yes, of bare dirt, which is not the most beautiful thing, but the goal is, yeah, over time, that's prime real estate for the better native plants to move in. Here's a quick overview. I already showed this map of our site that we were working at. You can kind of see the distribution. There's definitely some problem areas. Like I said, the French broom likes to grow in clumps. You'll see the bigger yellow polygons. A lot of those is a complete monoculture French broom, hundreds, thousands of plants. And then the Cotoneaster grows, more as isolated individual plants, and the Monterey pines similarly. Like I said, French broom was the plant that we focused on, or not that we necessarily focused on, but the plant that we found the most of in the site. Distribution, like I said, these plants are growing on the edges of our work polygons. We couldn't really treat the entire thing. If you look at the map on the right there, kind of above the red line there, that's a field of the French broom. So we know that over time, these plants are going to move right, back in. But it's kind of a matter of, if we clear out the target areas, it could take a while for the plants to come back. And if the natives are supported, it'll eventually maybe push back in the opposite direction. We were marking these, obviously, points and polys. The points are typically, 1 to maybe 10 plants, and then the polygons, like I said, could be hundreds, thousands of plants in a close cluster. Here's a couple other close-ups. I think you get the idea. Like I said, very close to the edges of the polygons there.
How did you decide which areas to treat for your map, and how did you decide which species to prioritize?
Good questions. In terms of prioritization, it was basically what we found in the spots that made most sense to work at. And if you walk to the site, I think at least for all of us working, it was pretty clear like what species were dominant in the area. But as to where we decided to work, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just looking at the map here. The broom is going crazy up there where I just went yesterday. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
So the elephant in the room is this is not our whole map. This is about half of our map. The spot to the west over here, basically, we did not get a chance to go into that area, and it's pretty clear that there's going to be more populations of the broom and Cotoneaster over in that spot. So our decision to kind of work in different areas and different clusters was mostly a matter of access, and where we saw the most plants in the spots that would make the most sense, where they're getting distributed most likely, which is like, along footpaths and things like that, game trails and things like that, and closer to more established native species, which means there's still a lot of ground to cover. And so in terms of access, we had, basically kind of a single parking spot that we were using to access most of the site that you see here, which was great for hauling in tools and things like that, and for accessing, things like hand washing water. I think over time we got, we became more efficient in terms of getting into the site, accessing these points where there were large broom or cotoneaster populations, getting in there, clearing them out, and then leaving the site without making too much of a disturbance. But it was kind of a learning process on, how to best get into this area, how to traverse primarily quite a bit of poison oak, and not disturb the native plants, like I said. But other challenges were just that, we were only doing like mechanical hand tools and spray bottles at the moment. So we didn't worry about doing any mowing or any chainsaw work. And yeah, it was definitely a challenge traversing some of these spots, just in terms of the slopes and poison oak as well. But yeah, that's pretty much just an overview of plants we're looking for, but we're definitely open to questions now if you guys have anything else to ask.
So where are you at with the project? You done for the year, or what's up?
Yeah, so Tim can talk about that.
I'll answer that, Ben. So we started this project with a certain budget, and we have worked through the end of that budget. So that's a question for Karen.
Can you tell me approximately how many hours were devoted to it?
I can tell you that if I find the document and open it, but it was many hours, and we had whatever our proposal was, and so that was calculated by hours, and so we maxed that out. We ended up with about $300 left in the budget, which covers this meeting and a few more things for our GIS staff. And so we'd love to get more budget so we can continue working out there, but there's a lot. I mean, even in the areas that we tried to do the best to get everything, instead of just spreading out and doing a little bit in each area, we tried to clear certain parcels or certain slopes, so that you'd have a clean working place and allow natives to come in. But even in those areas, there's still more. There's probably twice as much as we were able to treat. Some of the, like Ben had mentioned, some of the French broom, it's in groves. You can't even see through it, and it's 7 feet tall, and it's 150 feet length at a time.
Yeah.
But that's when we first saw the project. I started and I walked the whole thing and used binoculars and found spots that looked like broom, and I'd go down and check them out. So we tried to prioritize the large broom infestations and just get them out of there to start, and then we'll need to go back and get everything else.
I personally would agree with that. I think it's the worst up there. It's terrible, and I agree with your strategy of getting as much as you can from one area, not just hopscotching around, doing a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, I have a question. So thank you for the presentation. At the beginning of your presentation, you spoke to long-term goals. And based on your experience, how long do you think it would take before the land becomes self-sufficient, where you wouldn't have to come in and do cleanups?
So I think that once you remove the highly invasive species, then you almost always see a lot of natural recruitment from the existing natives, and maybe even just the existing seed bank, which the native might not even be there right now, but they'll come back. And so that's passive restoration. That's without planting or seeding. That's usually very successful, especially if you're patient. It's also cost effective. And so step one is, removing the invasives. Once you get the big ones, then you go through and it's maintenance. and just to make sure that no new seed bank is added from the invasive species. And then the natives tend to come back. There will always be maintenance needed because birds fly in and drop seeds, and hikers come in and their socks are full of seeds. And so, you know, there's always that. But the site has a lot of really beautiful, fully native habitat. You also kind of have to pick your battles. There's a lot of non-native grasses, but you know, it's about priorities. There's also a lot of native forbs, and there's a lot of butterflies and different animals that want to use it for food, forage, and host plants. So, I mean, I think, you know, a nice pass like what we did and then continue the rest of the site if we can would be great. There's also eucalyptus trees, which I probably should talk to Karen about. Some of them are large. I'm not sure if they're on your property, but we haven't seen a lot of young eucalyptus trees spreading around the site. I didn't see any actually. So that's kind of a policy decision.
So I guess the question, you know, so if money wasn't an issue, right, how many times would you need to come out on an annual basis to do a thorough cleanup so we can get to that point where it's, you know, maybe one time a year or whatever the case is?
Or maybe answer that as what factor against what you did this time, like 5 times as much, or?
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good way.
I think that I don't see a lot of yellow star thistle. I don't see a lot of stinkwort. And so the species that I was seeing a lot of, and there's probably some thistle and there's fennel and other things,
Tons.
it can be treated like maybe once a year. And if there's other things that come in seasonally different, you know, and they were noticed, then those would want to be treated as well. If you're lucky, you can treat once a year at one time and get everything, and you might be based on what I've seen. But
Tim?
I think, go ahead.
Did you see yellow star thistle? And if so, can you put a pin on that?
Yeah, I did not.
Okay, thank God. We haven't had it up there yet. And if you see one, you set the alarm like immediately.
Were
and
you near?
We'll go take it out.
Were you near at all the access road for the water tower that's near King's, big white cement?
Yeah,
There's
I walked by. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a tremendous amount of fennel that's exploding over there. I mean, it's a field of fennel. So I just don't know if that can be put on the radar because it's creeping over down towards 101.
The other thing to keep a sharp eye out is for any Jabata grass. So far, that area's been pretty clear of it, I think. But it's at the other side of the mountain. It's encroaching a lot, and I saw new encroachment on Guadalupe and revived encroachment in some of the other areas in the county park. But if you see any of that, raise the alarm and take it out as quick as possible, because that stuff's, once it gets a hold, spreads like wildfire.
Are you scheduled to come back, or is this just like the first annual cleanup? And is there anything scheduled?
Yeah, that's the first annual.
This is the first, okay.
Interested in, you know, this took a while to get off the ground, and dealing with the county was slower than it had been in past years, but I think now it should go more smoothly. Do you guys recommend doing this in the summer, earlier in the year, in the summer, or what time is the
Earlier
best?
in the year.
Yeah, earlier in the year is good. Some of these are perennial species, so it doesn't matter as much. Even in the fall is good because they're translocating everything back down to the roots, so the herbicide is effective. I know that we had discussed, and I failed to give you costs about ivy, so ivy is another discussion. But I don't see any purple star thistle, artichoke thistle, a lot of the things that I expected to see. It looks pretty good. If we can get rid of the broom and the cotoneaster is, you know, slow growing, you can find it and get rid of it. I think that'll be really effective. And then you can kind of move forward from there with maintenance. And then I don't know if you have volunteer groups or if you hire out sometimes you can focus on small areas to do some planting, to reintroduce natives, or just if you collect seed on site. We saw mimulus that grows well, collected and then replanted in the winter, and that helps spread the scrub.
Thanks.
Tim, you brought up reseeding, which is something that this council and I've noticed that the town does not do as much of as I thought they would. We work really hard on invasive removal, and the mountain is, as you noticed, kind of it's a chore. Do you guys do reseeding, and what would your kind of work be if you were to do that? I assume everything would be collected from the mountain to be reseeded onto the mountain.
That would be mandatory.
Yeah, so if that's mandatory, it's probably a San Bruno Mountain thing, or just within your organization. Yeah, I mean, you find the target species that you want, and then you time the collection, and then you can, either you identify areas that you want to revegetate with the natives, and at the right time of the year, you can clear some bare ground and scratch the seed in the soil and hope the birds don't eat it all. That's just part of seeding, so you usually want to overseed. If you had some species that you were really, really interested in, but were less spread around there's less quantities of it, there's always the opportunity to gather some seed and then amplify it. You just take some soil or some pots, whatever you want to do, or we do that as well. And then you grow it out, and then you collect the seed from it every year and keep spreading it out there, so you're not collecting seed from the plants on site and removing their seed that way.
Where do you do that work?
Well, we used to have a nursery, but now if we needed to, we have a large yard and warehouse, and so we'd be able to do it here in Oakland.
So we do have a native plant nursery. San Bruno Mountain Watch has a native plant nursery, and we supply a lot of plants for the mountain.
Awesome.
So, but all sourced from San Bruno Mountain, not anywhere else, and no cross-pollination if we can help it.
That's an excellent resource.
It is really an excellent resource that we've worked really hard to grow and have it thrive. I think everybody in this group has at some point used a weed wrench and pulled broom, a lot of broom over the years.
Questions from the committee or comments or feedback? No?
No,
No, just
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much. Thank you, and I guess we'll be in touch.
I just want to say also you should use San Bruno Mountain Watch as a resource for what actually is on the mountain and where it should be, et cetera. We have a huge bank of knowledge. It's mountainwatch.org if you want to take a look. I think it could be very helpful for you, especially in any kind of, we've done a lot of this kind of work in the county park and on the mountain, and it might be a good resource for you as well, knowledge resource.
Thank you, fellas. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks.
I have a follow-up question for Karen. Just past the red edge of one of their work sites, they said there was a massive amount of French broom. I assume that wasn't their work site because it's privately owned. Can we send them an invasives letter? Because that's on our list.
Just make that complaint.
Yes.
Do you know which one it
Okay.
is?
I can recognize it, but maybe we can come get with the map later and figure out what that address
Yeah.
is. That would be great. Yeah.
You can talk to Ben and the other staff on site, and they spend enough time out there to be able to circle or make some maps for you just to show you maybe where it was obvious. And I also want to add that some of the treatment areas on the map were outside of the parcel boundaries. That's kind of a mistake from when we were making the maps, and our parcel boundary got shifted a little bit. When we were working out there, we were within the parcel boundaries.
Any chance I could look at those maps? Could you share that with me if I give you my city email or something?
Yeah, of course.
I could get Tim's city email from you?
You want them out? Why don't you send them to me, and then I'll forward them to
Okay.
you guys.
Could you send them to Karen and she would share
Yeah.
with the committee?
And Karen,
Yeah,
can we,
I know her that data.
That'd be great.
Can
That'd
we
be
get a
great. Thank you,
copy of
Tim.
the presentation too?
Thank you. That was a great presentation. We appreciate your work on the mountain.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thanks, fellas. And I'll if you send them to Karen, the maps, and I'll be happy. Thank you, Tim. And Ben, he's gone. Great. Benjamin, great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right, so next, we're going to discuss the OSEC comments on the Quarry EIR. Who would like to open that discussion?
Well, as you know, the Quarry EIR is out and it's lengthy, and we have a comment deadline of December 6th and a meeting planned for December 2nd. So what I've got for you, are you guys seeing this? Hang on. Am I not sharing the right screen or something? I don't know what happened when they started sharing their screen. Are we on the right thing now? Okay. Get rid of that. Yeah, I don't know why we're seeing that screen instead of this screen. Because it should look like this, I thought.
I don't know if we use hide self-view.
No. Can you hit immersive? Ugh, never mind.
Yeah,
How about
that's just,
hide non-video?
Yeah. All right, sorry. Not sure why. I thought that should look like this screen, which is just the slides big, but
Okay.
I don't know what is happening with
we'll
that
get
today.
substance of it.
Okay, so my recommendation is that we divide this up for review. I've got a couple slides here that have the chapters laid out with page numbers or page counts so that we can try to address it relatively evenly in order to hit our Monday, December 2nd special meeting and have a packet that goes out before that with compiled comments, which will need to happen while I'm on Thanksgiving vacation. I'm going to have to ask you to all get your comments to me by Thursday, November 21st, so I can compile them and post them the last day before going on vacation for Thanksgiving week.
Adrian, I would like to say that is being too hard on yourself, and you should give us the deadline of November 20th. So that you have 2 days.
Well, as it turns out, the 21st, I have like 6 hours of meetings, so I'm not going to get a whole lot done then anyway.
Okay, that's
so
fair. Thank you then.
I figured I'd give you that day instead of me. But I'm going to send you, after this meeting and we decide who's doing what chapters, I'm going to send you all an email detailing what chapters everybody has. And I'm going to send you a template because when we did this before, it was very challenging to try to compile everybody's comments in a lot of different formats. So I'm going to ask you to be much more aligned in your formatting to make it easier for me to package everybody's stuff up together. So one Word document per person or per chapter that you're reading together as a group, and having your comments laid out in, kind of bullet points that have page or section references. If it's a general comment, got a section for that in the template. So you can see, this general comment on this chapter, or, I think this thing is missing, and then all of your stuff detailed out for the specific references to make it easier to put it all together. Don't just comment on the PDF and try to send me that. I'm not going to have time to put that all together. It's not going to work. So I'll send you the template along with assignments tomorrow or definitely by the end of the week.
You're dividing it up yeah.
You're going to all help decide what you want to tackle.
Okay.
But this is just, once we go through it all, I'll send you the template, use that template, put your comments into the Word doc, send it back to me as a Word doc so I can easily just copy and paste.
Could you please explain the instructions that are here? By one word document, you're talking about Word as the word.
Word
Okay,
as in
one only
capitalized
document.
Microsoft. Yes,
Okay,
one.
and then, I'm not sure what you mean of like, should not be shared with anyone else, hopefully short since mostly background and okay if you don't have
So
any? What's that mean?
let me go to this because I think that part will make more sense. There are executive summary, introduction, project description chapters that are, you may have comments on them, but I think they're pretty important context probably for everyone to read before you start reading specific chapters on what are the environmental impacts on biological resources or whatnot. So my suggestion, you guys can decide to do this differently, but my suggestion would be that everyone reads some of that background material and you do one Word document just for you that you don't share with anybody else on the committee if you have any comments on those chapters, which are more of that background kind of content. If you don't have any comments on those chapters because they're more background, then cool, don't worry about sending me anything. But that would be something that you would be working on individually. If you guys want to split up the other chapters so that you're doing them individually as well, then I'd say just do everything for yourself in one document. If you guys want to do some of these chapters in subcommittees of 2 or 3, then you would not want to share your comments on the things that everyone is reading with the other people in your subcommittee. Or you might have subcommittee with one person on one chapter and different person on a different chapter. I don't know how you guys want to split it all up. I'm just saying if everybody is going to review some content, you shouldn't be sharing your comments with each other on that stuff that everyone is reviewing. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
So for the first, so you're talking about, everyone should read the executive summary, we talked about that, but you're saying ES 1 and 2, that would be individual, look at that and perhaps share with you.
Yes.
Yes, and then the rest, we need to decide how we're gonna parcel out.
The rest, you guys decide how you want to parcel out. I mean, my recommendation would be appendices only as necessary for the people who are reading that chapter. So if I'm the person reading the chapter on biological resources and I feel like I need some detail on methodology or additional context, then maybe I'm going to read that appendix. But otherwise, if you guys want to decide to do it differently, please, by all means, but this is a lot of content, so I'd recommend prioritizing to some extent.
And we're supposed to have this done in that amount of time.
Could you go next
I
page
didn't
for,
set the
like, for
timeline.
how we might break it up?
I think that's why we divide and conquer, Michelle, is because we've got not enough time.
And I will say, it's very hard to say, don't read something, but there are probably some chapters that this committee is going to have a particular level of interest or expertise in that other people that might be reviewing and commenting won't. The ones in bold seem like the ones that are most priority or pertinent to me. That doesn't mean that you can't decide you want to try to get through all of the chapters, but again, up to you and how much time you feel you have in the next, basically less than a month to get through all of this. Michelle, you clearly want to say something. Go for it.
I think that giving us 45 days from the date it was received to the date that the comments are due is egregious, considering that it's how big it is and how much baffling with BS that is in here already that I've seen. And I'm just really appalled that we haven't asked for longer. It took us over 6 months to do the draft EIR for the Baylands. And this is, and some of the stuff I've already looked at is just like, really? And this is maybe 839 pages, but if you go back one slide, and look at the appendix, hazards and hazardous materials. is 1,340 pages. Biological resources, 230 pages. Geology and soils technical report, 461 pages. Technical noise study, whoa, that's short. It's only 71
Or
pages.
the page?
No, that's the number of pages.
On the appendices, those are the number of pages.
Number
On
of
the
pages.
the AA through 6, that is all one combined document. So those are page numbers.
Mm-hmm. And this right here, just as a visual, is just the 839 pages printed on both sides. No blank pages in here. So it's pretty massive. It's pretty massive, and on a lot of these, you have to refer, then you have to go online. I have a printed copy because I asked for it, and I punched the holes myself. But you have to go then, if you want to look up what they're referring to in the appendix, then you have to go and find it in the 230 pages, or hazards and materials, you have to find it in the 1,000.
Can we get more time? Or no, it is what it
Yeah.
is?
I
what
do not set the
flexibility do we
timeline.
have?
What's that?
Tomorrow, I think that's Thursday, tomorrow,
Yes.
there is a planning commission meeting
Yeah.
to talk about this. And I would highly suggest that my council members should ask there, because I think they've got a little more pull on the time than OSEC.
Committee members, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
tomorrow, they
committee members,
haven't, they
thank you.
haven't read it yet either. Tomorrow is just a sort of a, like, you can talk about what you know.
I mean, how long did it take
To generate the thing.
to generate this, right? It had to have been like a year plus, right, to pull all of this together? And then
I
they're
can't answer
asking,
these questions.
right, they're asking us to review it within a 45-day time frame, and
Well,
most of us
60, but
are
yeah.
not experts in all of these areas. It just doesn't seem reasonable.
So the law says they have to have, that it's, you have to give them minimum of 30 days, and it got extended to 45 days. And I talked to the city manager about this, and I guess if you want to extend it further than that, there has to be substantial reason why.
Perhaps you could hold up the substantial reason why.
He's seen it, So, if you find anything that you really find egregious that hasn't been covered, you should raise your hand and say, this is one of the reasons why.
We should take the number of pages and divide by the number of days and see who can read 60, 70 pages per day.
That's one reason I got it in paper, because I can't read that much online. My back's already trashed from this, doing this. Oh, and then a lot of it is this kind of stuff where I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but it's this kind of stuff. So now it's in mice type and it's sideways, it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, why don't we operate under the assumption that we're going to have to live with this deadline? It would be nice if
Yes.
we could appeal it, but okay, we'll all agree, this was kind of horrible. Now, how are we going to divide it up? So I agree with Adrian that at the beginning, we should all take a look at the executive summary for sure and comment individually if we want it. Now, is any section, I'm gonna take Adrian's counsel too about the appendices. They apply. If the section you're reading takes you there, then you'll go to that appendix. Are folks moved by certain things like the carbonization, et cetera?
Could we go to the next page where we see what's in
Yeah,
section 3?
so section 3, chapter 3 is the meat of it. I do want to point out that chapters 4 and 5 on our cumulative analysis and other CEQA considerations and alternatives. I wanted to leave it to you guys if that's something that, that's another 100 pages on top of the almost 100 in ES 1 and 2. I don't know if that's something that you want to all try to get through, or if you want to just have that be something you assign out. But keep that in mind as we go to chapter 3, which is where you see the meat of it.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna
And
throw.
is there another slide? This is it, the three?
No,
three-
This is
319?
it. Chapter 3. This is all the content there. All the other content is on this page, and then instructions. So what
Right.
I will send you, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of slideshow mode so I can literally type names into this as we assign them out, and then I'm going to send you these slides and the Word template in an email
Okay,
in the next day or 2 at most.
good.
So when you're reviewing this and deciding which section or whatever, when you look at something like in 3.4, it says hazards and hazardous materials, the introduction is this section presents the existing physical and environmental regulatory setting, yada, yada. Reports reviewed include the 2019 Phase 1 Environmental Site Assessment, the 2019 Phase 2 ESA findings, the 2023 Revised Additional Environmental Investigation, supplemental data and proposed redevelopment report, and the 2023 Media Management Plan included in Appendix E. This section also assesses impacts of the project related
What's
to
your point,
hazard.
Michelle?
My point is that in order to really understand what they're talking about and, delve into, is there a problem with what they've presented in the draft EIR, you kind of have to go look at the appendix, and that's the catch-22 of this, that the appendix is 4 times as long as the actual document, or 5 times as long. something
Sorry,
like that.
I think you may have already said, but what was the meaning of the bolded items?
It was that she felt were important.
Yeah, I would say those are probably like highest priority.
Okay, got it.
But that does not mean in any way, shape, or form that you can't try to get through much more of it than that.
This was
thank you.
bolded by you?
Me
Yes.
Okay.
and me alone.
Yeah, I'd add like about 4 more to that bold list, but that's not the point of this. The point of this is to figure out who's doing what, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
We want to take a temperature of things that are pet projects and start that way and then fill in the gaps or things that feel you, no.
Yes, we should do that. I'm going to throw a wrench in it and say that I am out starting on the 13th, so I probably shouldn't be on any group things because I'm not going to be around to meet with people.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I can't work on it when I'm out. It just means I won't be around and
For meeting with groups. And, there's enough here that I kind of wondered, is subcommittees the way to go? Or is this just, you read that chapter and you comment on that
I
chapter,
conquer. Yeah.
divide and conquer?
I think, yeah, there's so much.
However,
Go ahead.
I was in a subcommittee with Mary, and I would like to say it was fantastic
Yeah.
and motivating. We had an early deadline. We got together, we talked about stuff. She made me question some things I had, thought, and she had information that filled in my holes, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a benefit to the subcommittee. So maybe the most important chapters, we might want to do that.
Don't tell everybody I was going to get her to be my subcommittee partner. This is a bad month, and I really resent the fact that we waited months and months and months for this, and they give it to us during the holiday season, just like they did with the revised notice of preparation.
I haven't had a good month in a year, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me.
Okay,
Okay.
we're at square one. We remain at square one. So how will we eat this elephant?
Well, obviously, I should probably do biological resources since that's where.
I'm glad you
Let's
said that.
let's
I was
start
gonna
with
suggest-
3-0 and go down rather
Okay.
than
Okay,
bounce around.
Okay.
so is environmental setting?
I think 3.0 it's only like 2 or 3 pages. And that's probably something that you all want to review because it's just outlining how the rest of that chapter is formatted.
Okay, I'll take land use and planning, and I'm 3.1.
I would like to say I'm probably most equipped for the 3-2 and 3-3,
Yes.
given my background.
Here, so ordered. 3.2, 3.3 to Dr. Becker.
Actually, I work for the mining industry. I should take 3-4 as well.
Yes, you should.
Yes.
While you're at it, 3.5 has got your name on it.
3-5 was one of the ones I was going to bold because given what happened in Brisbane 2 winters ago,
Yeah.
that one is very important.
Very important.
And that's a mine, so all of that water is going to flow downhill,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, but they're going to underground it all.
Oh,
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought when I looked at that map was
Mm-hmm.
that drainage has got to be just.
did the two of you want to look at that together? The water, the hydrology and
I've,
water?
I've got my designs on a few other things.
I know.
Yeah, I think your
I don't know.
expertise is like further down
Yes.
here.
Yeah, so I'm looking.
All right.
All right, so I'm taking the first 140 pages.
Yeah, so 3.1 through, I got 3.2 through 3.5, yeah? You do
Yeah,
that,
3-2-3,
hydraulic?
yeah, 3-2-3,
Great.
3-5.
So then, we got to Dr. Salmon over here.
I'll do
Viola,
3.6 for
3.6,
sure.
Great.
and probably 312.
Sure. Anyone, is air
yeah.
quality speaking to anyone? 3.7?
I was looking there, yeah, 3738, 317
So ordered.
ish.
I was
3.7?
going to suggest those three probably belong together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And transportation also, Anthony, or no?
do that, 3.9 and 3.10,
Beautiful. This is teamwork makes the dream work.
and 3.13.
Okay, well, wonderful. Ladies, gentlemen, this is truly exciting. I don't know if Adrian can keep up with her typing here.
I'll take 315 also.
Easy. That's do I hear 316? Give me 318.
All right, so what are we missing now? We're missing,
Okay, wait.
All right. Order.
So we've got
Excited about that.
Anthony on 3.7, 3.8, and 3.17. Mary on 3.9 and what?
3.10 and 3.13.
Is anyone spoken about 314 yet? Public service.
I don't have anybody on my
I'll
list
do
yet.
3.14 too.
Yes?
Okay.
Okay, how about wildfire?
I just said 315.
You were out of order.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you still want 315, it is yours. It's now your time.
Yeah, sorry, 315.
All right.
Recreation? Anyone is that speaking to? I will take it if no one else, because right now I'm just at land use. So 316, I'm taking recreation. 317, energy.
I think
That's Anthony.
You
That's
have,
me, yep.
yes, good. Now you were out of order. I will remind you, but now you're in order.
Apologies.
Population and housing. And we do have Barbara, who we've been not.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
True.
She's got agriculture and forestry. That's only 10 pages. How about population, housing, and Anthony, you've got 317, right? So could we tentatively give Barbara population 318 and 319?
I think she's not here, and those are both quite short, so I see no reason why not.
Okay.
we should probably let her weigh in on whatever else she wants to do as well.
Yes.
But at least now we're covered. Did anyone do 312 or are we just gonna skip it because?
I have
I
salmon.
only have 312. I have
Oh, okay.
36, 312, 315.
Okay,
Well,
perfect. I missed that one.
I'd like to look at 312 with you.
That would
Yeah,
be
is that-
awesome.
Okay, good. And the other one I needed to take was populate, oh no, that's Barbara. Recreation, 316? Okay, I'll take 316, recreation. Culture
guess is
with
Barbara's gonna get-
Michelle. And land use, good.
Now, my question is, are we doing anything under 2?
What's two?
Section 2 is kind of the overview, site history, project objectives. I mean, we still need to comment on those, like, for instance, 2.8.2, hours of operation. It says,
Okay.
warehouse operations may occur between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m., 7 days a week, depending on the final tenant. And that's all it says for hours of operation. And to me, that is extremely inadequate, which it's basically couldn't be more ambiguous if you tried. And hours of operation is one of the things that's going to severely impact not only the environment and the animals and plants and everything that lives there, but the quality of life in Brisbane with 24/7 truck traffic, lights, noise, and everything else. And to reduce it to one sentence is just
So this is 2.8, is it in project description?
2.8.2 under operations and maintenance.
It's a part of two
Yeah.
project description?
Yeah, so it says we're all reading too.
That's what we're all doing.
Okay, we're
So
all
you
reading
can
that.
comment. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Good. So
How do
we're-
you want to I think I would recommend that someone at least tackles chapters 4 and 5, cumulative analysis and alternatives.
I don't have that much. I'll give up culture. All yours, Michelle, and I'll do 4, cumulative analysis. And land use. And
How many pages is, in-
Okay, that's
alternatives? Cumulative analysis and other CEQA considerations, alternatives. Yeah, I know which alternative I like.
The one they didn't, the one they didn't assess, I imagine. You like the alternative that they didn't assess?
I don't know. This is a lot. I'll be stunned if we actually get through all of this. Do we do section 3.11, aesthetics and visual resources? Wait, my screen went away. 311. Why is
was
the
there
311 on here?
I didn't see a 311 in the PDF. I
Well,
even
the
went back
311
and
is
double
in-
checked.
Is in here, and it's aesthetics and visual resources. That's kind of really important.
Okay, it got missed. You know what it is now, so is there someone would like to
Is
take?
there? Is it
It's
missing
quite a
from the
little-
PDF on the website? I literally, I was like, this is weird. Why isn't there a 3.11? And I went back and like scrolled through the document and didn't see anything.
That's kind of a big one.
Okay, you said it's aesthetics and visual resources?
Yeah, and it's a lot of pages. It is.
Yeah, it seems to be in the copy of the PDF I have, 311.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes
Okay,
from
that's very
page,
strange. I
3.10,
apologize.
well, actually, 3.10, 311.1 through 311.54.
Yeah, see, there's no actual page numbers. This was very frustrating for me too, guys.
So,
5:57 it stops and then 3:12 starts at 5:58.
Well, these-
Okay, so 558 to what? Because my
This doesn't-
558 was 3.12.
the printed version that I have doesn't have those kind of page numbers. They have section pages.
Yeah, I had to, because it's one combined PDF. So I was looking at like Adobe PDF reader pages. I was just doing that so you guys had an idea of how many pages.
Okay, well,
we
this
were
is
talking about.
54 pages. Is aesthetics and visual resources.
okay, so why don't
So
we?
who wants to tackle that one?
I think Barbara wants to tackle that one. Aesthetics, we put that down, and Michelle can weigh in if she'd like.
I
So
probably will.
Let's have aesthetics for Barbara.
Oh, that's interesting. They call out natural lightscapes such as dark night skies.
And
specifically.
she's been.
Oh, good.
Dark Knight.
Very
Great.
good.
Excellent. It's fortuitous.
Can I ask a question that's in Anthony's section and I don't want to read it, so I want to ask him now?
I mean, yeah.
I read the executive summary and they had an interesting point in there and I would like your take on it, or I'd like you to think about it while you read. You don't have to answer right now. One of the negatives about this is that we are going to fail on our vehicle miles traveled metric because we're going to have all of those trucks coming in and out, in and out.
Right.
However, in the big picture of environmentalism, which is more important than our metric, they're going to have a distribution center that is between San Francisco Airport and San Francisco. And that means that all of that stuff isn't going to the East Bay and coming back. So vehicle miles traveled, we lose possible greenhouse gas emissions for the Bay Area. We don't lose as much. So planted? Cool.
But we also need to look at the, the miles off of the freeway that it is, how far.
Yeah.
Because this is something that should really be built on the Baylands, right next to the freeway.
Yep, you're so right.
And it's ridiculous to put this
Except you
way
can't.
up in the valley.
Oh, actually, I was about to say you shouldn't put housing on an old mine, but the Baylands is a landfill. Yeah, good point.
Okay, well, so have we
I had a-
populated most of the numbers and we have a treat for Barbara?
Oh, one of the ones.
I haven't heard anyone sign up for Chapter 5 alternatives yet. I think everything else has been assigned out. I'm sorry, this
Oh, yeah, we banned.
display is being wonky on us over here today, so I have been taking notes in a version of the slides that you're not
Analysis, 720.
seeing.
I'll do alternatives too. I think I'm light compared to the others, so I'll take the number 4 and number 5. And
Thank you,
3
Jason.
and 3. Could we give, good.
I was actually going to suggest that perhaps everyone do alternatives
I think you're right.
good idea.
because we're comparing this with what could be instead.
Okay.
And so you should do that after your chapter.
Yeah, and a lot of the, there's a huge section of the alternatives that's this little mice type stuff.
Great.
Yeah, like I'm gonna go blind.
We can all go blind, just one of us. Okay,
So on that front, the other question that I have to ask even though I don't want to, is if you also need your chapters in print, or if you are good with reading a PDF.
I know that's a hard one. But-
You can answer for you, and I think
I
individuals
was
can.
gonna
Yes, I
say
think
that-
this is an individual question.
Yeah,
I-
so
I-
what do you think for you?
Well, obviously, I need it in print,
Got it?
and I have it. But one of the things that's an advantage is to be able to mark it up.
Understood, but
And-
people can mark. Let's have everybody answer for themselves. That's what. I
Okay,
think
well,
we
I'm
do.
just saying, it wasn't,
So
once.
Mary, how do you feel? Do you want a PDF or you want to print it?
I think
I
it's-
I downloaded it.
Okay.
So I printed out the executive summary. So I have access to print it myself if I want to do that.
Okay, great.
So,
Aaron,
I'm getting better at those tools where I can make marks on PDFs, so I'm
Okay.
gonna go that way.
Anthony? You're good with that too?
I keep it under my pillow at all times.
Oh,
I have it right here.
thank you.
Sorry to be the Luddite of the group.
I'll do the,
no, I'm printing too, so don't,
Okay.
I need to print, yeah.
and I'll print what I need, but I'll read it from the PDF, just
Okay.
to save the soil.
If anything changes with that regard, let me know.
Thank you.
But happy to have you do the PDF work if you can.
Thank you.
Okay, I will send this out
Nice.
tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon. And
That's time for staff updates.
go forth.
Sorry, I had just a very basic question about
of course.
this that I skimmed, sort of looking specifically for any mention of a specific tenant. Is that not?
I am
Decided
not
at this
aware
point,
of
or-
one,
okay.
but I'm not in a much more informed position than most of you. In fact, maybe less than some of you. So
So do we know, is it like a, if we build it, they will come type of situation here, or?
I mean, that's a good question to ask the planning commission tomorrow at
Is
the
it
meeting,
Amazon
right?
and no one's saying?
Right,
Maybe.
yeah, I kind of skimmed pretty hard looking for somebody, but
From
came up
my,
empty.
I met with Tyler Higgins 3 times, which I've been very public about. And the last time I met with them was, now it's been a year, coming November. But they did not have a specific tenant that he was willing to divulge. And that's why 2.8.2 says depending on the tenant.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Seems like a weird thing to build if you don't have anybody lined up, though.
But they're very confident that because of the lack of warehousing of this type of facility in the North Peninsula, that they would not, and the proximity to SFO, that they would not have any challenges of
Finding
getting
somebody, yeah.
several tenants or one tenant or whatever.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't know,
Right.
but that's just my take, my personal take on the conversations I had.
Good,
Okay.
good. Staff updates. Hello, how are you, staff?
I have just a couple quick ones. That they're quick but big. The first one, if you've read the blast today, you might already know. I was in Long Beach last week to accept the Helen Putnam Award of Excellence in Planning and Environmental Quality for the Brisbane Building Efficiency Program, which I was told as I was there is like winning the Oscars of local government or something like that. So.
Well done.
It's something we've applied for many times, as I understand, and I think we thought we hadn't won any, but found out today that we have one in like 2000 and 1983 or something like that. Anyway, we're going to be, I believe there's going to be a more formal presentation of that at a council meeting November 7th, probably. And then my other...
Congratulations and well done,
Thank you.
all of you.
Thank you. My other big news is that PG&E has finally energized the Bayshore Park and Ride lot, which means we are finally about to have some EV charging stations there. Chargy's electrical subcontractor, Doneen, is going to be here on Tuesday. They're actually going to be swapping out the charging stations they installed last March because they have better ones already. And they want to use them. So they're going to be swapping out the charging stations, but expecting it to probably only take a day, maybe 2, to finish that work up. And we should have level 2 charging stations in that lot active probably by the end of the week next week.
How many
Yay.
stations are there?
There's 10.
Will you be
Fantastic.
allowed to park in them if you are not charging?
Generally, probably not.
Will we have enough other places in the park and ride for people who park and ride?
Has there been an issue with a lack of parking there?
Yeah, Michelle couldn't park when she went up to Mission Blue the other day, and there was.
All right. It's a serious question because people do use that and for taking the bus, and we're trying to encourage people to take the bus. So I am concerned about that.
Noted. That was all I had.
Okay, Karen?
I don't have any.
No? All right.
I have some. Alejandro has some. So for the trash grabber program, I just wanted to share that the program is up and running, and the trash grabber kits are available for checkout at the marina, at the pool, and at City Hall during operating hours. So we're good there. For the building efficiency program, I have been working with some building administrators for the benchmarking requirements because we were at, I believe, around 90% a few months ago. Now we're up at 95%, and hopefully, meaning 95 buildings, so 95%. And we have 5 more buildings in the works. For the beyond requirements, we have about 30, I believe it's like 35 buildings in compliance currently. And we have, I believe, other 30 buildings that are kind of submitting things. So, they're working on it. But we had other 32 buildings that hadn't submitted anything. So we mail out NOVs or notice of violations. Is that correct, the name? Yeah. We mail out NOVs on October 14. So I'm basically waiting to hear back from these buildings and see if we're going to have to issue fines or if they're going to start submitting what they need to submit for their building. That's for me.
Thank you. Okay, so we have should we start with the reorganization or start with the reports?
I guess I will just say for reorganization, we did some of this last month, adding Anthony to a couple of committees. There's a couple of names in italics. Last month, Jason and Mary weren't here, so those were committees that you had expressed either an interest or a willingness in dropping off of. Mm-hmm. But we didn't have people clamoring to take spots that on those committees. So up to you guys if you want to, how you want to handle those.
So right now it's populated, but just people may not have gotten what they wanted to do.
It's populated. We can make further changes as needed because we still have this on the agenda since we had a few people missing last month.
I'm
but-
going to step up and say I'm not on a lot of committees, so Mary and Jason should thumb wrestle about who's getting off of events, and I
that
will
would be
take
me.
their spot.
That'd be me. I've been on it longer than you. Okay, good. So it'd be Mary.
All right.
You went off there?
Yep.
Okay, Mary's off. Becker's on. See, I was a gentleman about that. You were like, pulled rank, and I said, yep, you're right. I'm just looking for any other italics or no? Is that it?
Yeah, the others would be, I think it was just Lippman Science Fair judging and events were the only two. And I will say a subcommittee of 2 is acceptable. So technically you could both drop off of events and it could be Aaron and Michelle, and the Science Fair judging could be Barbara and Anthony, and that would be acceptable.
Okay, good. So ordered.
Cool.
So, Aaron on events and Mary and I off, and Anthony on, Lippman and Mary off. Yeah? We good? Events, any report from the events committee? Nicely done with thank you for everything, and thank you for bringing on Barbie. I love her. She was awesome.
She was quite popular
As she always is.
and well-dressed too.
Anything? Our big thing with events is mostly the park, right? We don't have anything.
The other events that we have are Habitat Restoration Days, Coastal Cleanup, and also we have planting days once in a blue moon.
Okay.
So we do have some things coming up. I felt like Day in the Park was a little bit like, and it was very, very hot.
Yes.
And I hope that we go back to having the big squares, tents with like that have, 8 tables around it because, or wait, 1, 2, 3, because they're much cooler and they cast shade and you can retreat into the tents. What we had was really not very adequate. And thank God, thank you, Adrian, not God, we thank Adrian for getting us the back panel because that was a big help, but it wasn't enough. It was really brutal out there. And it was really hot last year too. And this is why I really hope we move back to having, and in the middle of the lawn was just one big empty nothingness because it was too hot to even be out there. And people didn't really sit on the lawn or hang out or anything like that. So I think we really need to take a look at how we organize it. And kids just weren't interested in doing any really activities. Mountain Watch brought too many activities, so it was hard for them to choose. And we had a wall of brochures, which I think that is a little bit off-putting for the public because there's more than what they can actually absorb.
Yeah.
The garbage sorting was fun.
Yeah, he was
People
great with
really
that.
liked that. But it was a challenging day in the park with the weather being so intensely hot. And so much time gets taken up with kids, use so much energy in the derby.
Yeah.
But even the bouncy houses were like not well attended.
Have they thought about maybe moving it to like later in October? I don't know.
I don't think so. I
No?
mean, many years it's been fine.
That's okay.
I mean, this would be a question for the Park and Rec Department, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably go to a meeting and give the feedback that I just gave us. And I talked to them about it that day. It really was a lot better when we used to have the big 4 square tents all over the lawn.
Yeah.
People were, then they would mill all over the place and maybe have 1 or 2 of those open for people to go in and sit in as well as not just for, the
Yeah. No, it's
committees
very
and stuff.
Far flung.
Yeah.
Well, the way things have been going, the heat may continue to get
Worse.
worse, right? So,
Yeah.
I
Maybe
mean,
move to November.
it could become
Unbearable.
an issue of like heat stroke and that kind of thing we need to worry about.
Well, to be honest, on Day in the Park, by the time I finally got home, because I stayed until 3, and I felt like I had heat stroke. I stood in an ice cold shower for 15 or 20 minutes because I was really red in the face and dizzy.
You do have to be careful about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very hot.
Education and outreach, where are we there? Anything? Any action? Anything going on?
No, I mean, our last, the Grabber program was probably the last active activity. So I guess,
Did we get-
the next thing would be the library display, right? We need to get the next focus.
Yes, and in fact, I'm realizing that is due to be updated in early November. So if anybody has thoughts on what you'd like the focus of that content to be, we should get together on that perhaps. Maybe since Anthony's new to the committee, maybe we want to have a quick meeting and discuss some ideas, fill him in on the library display and see what kind of ideas he has
Okay.
for the group.
Yep. Okay. We could just do that over Zoom, right?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, this has to be noticed?
Yep.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's Noticed and in person or noticed and?
Yep.
noticed-
Noticed and in
in person.
person.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Do those need to be standing subcommittees?
Don't make me answer that.
Okay,
Maybe it needs to be disbanded in favor of special project
yeah.
focused outreach. I don't know.
Okay, something to think about. Building decarbonization, any reports there? Anything going on? Anything shaking?
We have not met.
Okay. Open space plan, anything we have, I didn't meet.
Well, there's been some developments mainly in regard to the Upper Acres, which was part of the open space plan that we had worked on and got 6 additional parcels listed as priority preservation. And the city council had a very informative and interesting meeting Thursday, which I didn't get to attend, but I did watch the entire thing. And one big eye-opener was back in 2019, it was presented to OSEC that we had done research on all of the lots that we owned and that there was a resolution passed by the city council, et cetera. But as it turns out, that hasn't been actually filed. And so now it will be filed. But there was 50 properties that they had to look at and didn't have all of the information on, except the night they presented it, they said they had already done that. So my faith is a little bit shattered right now about that. I'm not happy. But it's now definitely happening. And then there was a lot of discussion about making the designation of the lots that are owned, whether it was better to protect them with conservation easements or deed restrictions, and also zoning as open space so that the state doesn't look at it and say, oh, it's residential because there's an R attached to it. So there's a lot of moving parts with that right now. And so I've really been paying a lot of attention to that as part of the open, but we haven't had an actual meeting to get together on that, on our next phase of open space plan update. And we did recraft a letter and it was given to Karen, and I guess the city manager has looked at it and
I signed it.
and yeah, so you've seen it then.
I signed it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and I saw Angel this afternoon. She said they're in the mail. They're out.
Good.
Well,
Good. Let's hope we have some people who are interested in working with us on particular acres. So that's it for that.
Crocker Trail, frogs. Anybody, any action there? I don't.
Well, we're just gonna formalize the meeting we had with the owner down at the Habitat area on Cypress. And hopefully, once that's done, then, well, Paul has requested contractor assistance, right, to start the cleanup?
Yeah, a one-time assistance. So he's expressed interest in leading the volunteer work out there, which is
Okay,
great.
that's great.
But he said it's kind of a lot for volunteers to do because it's so long. And,
Yeah,
you know, first we need to know what that cost is and then I can make the ask, you know.
okay. And so how long will that take? Because November's prime month to do it, I think.
Yeah,
But,
Yeah, I'm working on it with the Buildings and Grounds team leader that
Okay.
manages our, landscape contracts. And he was like, I was going to ask this one, they're cheaper, but they're busy. It's going to take longer. And I was like, the timing is such that we need it as soon as we can. So.
okay, all righty.
we're
So
kinda
do you
getting-
need anything from us? Committee members?
No, I don't
or-
think so. I mean, I can just let you know
Yeah.
what that amount is and how I'm going to ask. And if we get it approved, then what the timing is. And then
Start, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Is there
Okay.
a budget line for it? Or
there's no budget for
We
it.
just have to ask for it
Yeah,
with our begging cup. Okay.
yes.
Okay, and, good. Thanks, Mary.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Tree issues. Anybody have an issue with trees?
Yeah, I do.
I like trees.
I like trees also. So I think that I believe that the inventory is almost done, or is it done?
Yes, I'll start. There's a cost to maintain that inventory from the company, so we're working on putting it into our GIS system, so we don't have to pay that annual fee. And then, the data's getting transferred and then piece by piece. So we're reviewing that and trying to figure out if we can maintain that, our staff can maintain that. And people have been out, so we haven't been able to have that meeting. And then we're trying to get that going, and then we plan to present it at the December meeting.
Yeah, we were thinking December meeting, but
Yeah, probably not because of the, well, it depends. Okay. And then the other issue is I'm concerned about overall tree health right now. And we've just come through a very long, hot, dry summer. We need to be watering our street trees. We need to make sure all the irrigation systems are turned back on so that the trees are getting watered. The state, I just read today in the paper, water quantity this year is not an issue at this point. And I sort of made some inquiries about when do we decide to water our trees. And through the grapevine, the answer came back of, we don't water them until they show signs of distress. I just want to say, by the time they show signs of distress, the tree's going to die. It's too late. So we cannot
Are
wait.
you talking about, what does the city of Brisbane do? I don't know
Yes,
who you.
the city of Brisbane, the street trees, when we water them. And
Who did you ask? I mean, you're saying grapevine.
I don't want to say that.
Well, then I can't respond.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'd like to know, when do we decide to water them? Because they need to be watered before they show signs of distress. They should be being watered now. And the trees at the marina look terrible, and the grass does too. And I notice all around town, everywhere, it all looks really dry, and it looks like we've just shut off all irrigation water. And that's kind of penny wise and pound foolish, because we've invested so much money in growing these trees, and then to let them die for lack of water, especially in a year when we have water, is crazy. Crazy, and it makes me crazy.
Well, trees mostly don't have irrigation water, right?
But they get irrigation water from the lawns that are being watered.
If they're in areas that have lawns, which
Which is
probably
the
pretty
case of
dominant.
all of the trees in Crocker Park and most of the trees at the marina. And also, the street trees need to be watered as well.
What was the first location? Is that even our property, the Crocker Park trees?
Yeah, I know, but we put out a mandate to turn off all the irrigation because of water conservation. And we didn't go back to make sure they turned it back on when that was done, have we? Because I noticed every single lawn just about in Crocker Park looks like terrible, and that affects the tree health. So I'm really concerned about this. We are going to lose a lot of trees this year from us not taking care of them, because when it does start to rain, they won't have the root systems to support the canopy, and they'll go right over just like they have for the last 2 years.
I would like to say this might be a good topic for education and outreach at the library next, right? Like, because it's not just
tree health.
the city, but it's everyone who owns a tree. It's don't forget to water.
That's a great idea. Could we also promote, the green bags that you were
The tree
giving
gators.
out? Yeah, tree gators. Maybe we could do something like that again.
There's
mean,
there's a cheap fix as well, which is a 5-gallon bucket with a 3/8 inch hole drilled in the bottom of it.
Oh,
And if you put that at the drip line to the tree, so when the leaves end, the rate of water release is the right rate for a tree.
Yeah.
And so bigger trees, you're going to need a
More
couple
buckets.
or to move them around, but
Yeah.
it's
That would be
a lot of
cute.
people have a 5-gallon bucket just sitting around. So
That'd be cute if it, for the education outreach, just that MacGyver thing. You don't have to have the fancy green bag. You can get a 5-gallon
Yeah.
thing with a
But-
hole.
But in the meanwhile, we need to take care of our city trees too.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know who you talked to, I don't know what they said, but typically in regular rain years, we haven't done additional watering of trees because it's enough to make them survive. Now, this committee is the one that initiated doing deep root watering. We put a line item in the budget. We had some drought years and we went out and did that. I don't know.
We have
So
not
that-
had any substantial rain since March. And we just went through 2 weeks of 100-degree weather, up to 100-degree weather.
Can I ask, Karen?
Yeah.
Who would, what Michelle's saying about all the irrigation being shut off, how could we follow that up to see if it was still all shut off? What department would, Public Works?
Yeah, I can check into whether there was messaging about the drought's over, turn your irrigation back on, but, I mean, I would think that a private property owner that invested in their landscaping would want
Yeah,
to
of
keep it
course.
alive.
No, of course, yeah.
Well, they're kind of following what the city told them to do. So, I'm really concerned about this. I think we really need to look into it right away because we may not get substantial rain for at least another month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, but is that abnormal, that you're saying March to November?
Yes,
Is that-
that's abnormal that we've had so little moisture, extremely low humidity
Yeah.
over and very little fog drip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yes, this is unusual.
Can we use the green bags, the gator bags for the city trees?
They still have to go fill 'em up.
5,000?
Pardon me?
We have 5,000 city trees, right?
Well, not
When we did that
whatever
inventory, we
trees
found
need it, right?
4,700.
Wow,
It's a lot of bags.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Well, what action can we take?
And then the bags have to be filled anyway. So what we were doing with Davy Tree was bringing a water truck with a probe that has holes in it, so it actually deep root waters instead of watering at the surface. And we picked certain trees, so they probably did a couple hundred that were most distressed, and they went around and they watered those on a weekly basis during the drought. But 4,700 is,
Well, 4,700 is
trees.
every tree on city property. But
and it's hard to, when we did that, we said, tell us which trees you want us to focus on. There's this much budget. You can't water 4,700 trees. And it was,
well, I think
it's hard
that's
to be
kind of the
specific.
point, right? It's being diligent about regular maintenance, so we're not in this situation where trees are dying. But we don't have, I mean, that's what we've been saying all along. There is no regular maintenance of these trees.
Okay, well, we could certainly look at the cost, but it's your tax dollars. It's not, the money doesn't grow on trees.
Right, no, I
trees.
understand
So I don't know that there's an easy
right?
way to water that many trees. There isn't.
I mean, we need to look into it.
I think we should look into it, and we should think about it, and see if we can budget it, right? And the rain, hopefully, is just about to come. But I guess the one thing we could ask is if the drought is kind of sort of over, and if we're allowed to turn on where Michelle is saying where the lawns would spread out and help the trees, then if we could do that, that would be great. Do you think?
Yeah, I can look into what the outreach was at the end of the drought, yeah.
Okay,
easily.
because I don't see 4,700 green bags happening.
Yeah,
No.
no, I mean, I
Right.
understand that, but, an ounce of prevention, right? So that would help, and you wouldn't hear us complain. And I mean, I think it's a priority, to be honest, right? And it's all about, the canopy, right? We keep talking about.
yeah, so
So,
if they're dead, they're dead.
all right,
And it seems like it's going to be getting hotter and drier
right.
as we go. Tree committee has their work cut out. Anybody else? Tree issues, baylands, I don't think we've done that. And the
nothing.
inactive ones, we haven't done that. So is it time for chair and committee member matters?
No, it's time for calendar updates. And we
Calendar updates.
have some calendar updates.
Yay!
In November, we are going to have a compost giveaway. On the delivery will be on the 7th, and then we've got winter cleanup on the 16th and 17th.
Okay.
So these, I don't think I saw this. Was this in the blast today? I don't know if I saw it. It will be in the Star for sure. I know because we made sure to get it to them on time. But so we've got the compost giveaway. As part of our SB 1383 procurement requirements and some grant funding from Cal Recycle, we said we were going to start doing these more often. So we've always, well, not always, but for the past several years had the spring one. So we're adding a fall one, and probably next year we'll have 4.
For compost or cleanup? Compost.
That's
Compost.
fantastic.
We may do mulch sometimes, compost and or mulch. It sounds like scavenger can really only deliver one at a time, but
Does it make sense to think about that seasonally? Like, I think I would like compost in April and mulch in whatever month this is.
November.
But,
Remember?
but maybe someone would have a better thought about why that would be opposite.
I kind of had the same thought, but I was encouraged to stick with compost. So if other people feel differently,
Yeah, or maybe actually mulch in the spring because you plant and then you want the water savings. And then compost gets to treat the soil all winter long as it rains and it gets to go deep. That's
think
probably,
that was-
yeah, I like that idea better. I have no idea. I'm making things up out loud.
I'd love to see if we can get to a point where we can have both at the same time. I don't know currently logistically with scavenger if that's going to work out, but I'm going to see if we can do that because I think it's nice when you can do both at the same time and location, and you can put your compost down and your mulch on top. But we'll get there. Winter cleanup, November 16th and 17th. Map of the locations on the city website.
We want to tell people it's a good time to make sure you trim away.
I believe there's a lot more content like that on the website.
Okay. Just thinking about fire resilience, trimming away stuff from your house.
Oh, yeah.
That was all I had for the calendar. Besides that, as we were mentioning a couple minutes ago, we were thinking about also doing the tree inventory on the next meeting if it seems like our meeting won't be too darn long with that. Otherwise, we'd get bumped all the way till the end of January still.
Maybe you have it on there and you can bump it if
Yeah.
it's taking too much time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Can I ask a question? Or
Sure.
actually, it's just a comment.
Sure.
I'm noticing a few fellas on visitation blowing the street. That's new, right?
I think that I
Unless it's
heard from the maintenance team leader that there were a lot of complaints and maybe there was trash overflowing or leaves, and he said, I blew the street and those complaints went away, so.
yeah, I see two folks every morning just blowing all the stuff away, picking it up and blowing, yeah. So thank you, anyway. Looks good.
Did you want something? Sure. Anthony had a point he wanted to make.
Yeah, so I was talking to Jason about subcommittees, and I, wanted to raise the idea of maybe adding a subcommittee around our emissions goals. Creating a space for us to talk about that kind of thing, how we're doing, brainstorm ideas around strategies for continuing to, pursue those goals and that kind of thing. Wondering what that would look like if, that needs to be agendized or discussed elsewhere or.
So I'll tell you a short bit of history and then up to you guys how we want to handle it. We did previously have a CAP subcommittee, a climate action plan subcommittee that really tackled those kind of things more broadly. Because it's a kind of standing nature thing that requires meeting in person in publicly noticed meetings to have a standing committee. And we hadn't until just a couple months ago, as you know, gotten a updated inventory or been able to update a climate action plan. We decided when we could no longer meet remotely that we would disband that committee and created the Building Decarbonization Committee because that was what was the kind of current thing that we needed to focus on. If we want to recreate a CAP subcommittee and either disband the Building Decarb or have both of them, I'm certainly open to that. But I think if we are having a committee of that sort, it would be very hard for me to say that it was an ad hoc, unless there's some specific purpose that you want to create them for.
Could we fold,
that makes
could
sense.
we fold the two together? Is building decarb, is it standing or?
It's currently ad hoc because it was just focused specifically. It really was focused on reach codes was kind of the primary focus of that subcommittee. And so we made it ad hoc, which was why we had done that, so that they could meet remotely rather than have to have, standing meeting noticed, all of that. But if we want to go back to the standing cap subcommittee, I'm open to that if that's what the folks want to do.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how we want to conceptualize it, I don't know if, necessarily the goal would be to sort of craft a climate action plan. I was just sort of looking at, right, we've got building decarbonization, right, but based on the most recent inventories, right, if we decarbonize literally every residence in Brisbane, we get to, 7%? And vehicle miles traveled is 53, right? So it just seemed to me like, it'd be great to have carve out a space to be thinking about these things, talking about these things, and hopefully doing something about it,
Could we have an ad hoc subcommittee to determine if we need to have a regular subcommittee? And so we could get a better vision of what Anthony's talking about, because I think it's a really good idea, because this is there's no silver bullet, but this is like a whole lot of silver bullets. And I think he's just brimming with ideas to share with the community where we might really be able to make a difference, and not just in what the county looks at us and reports, but actually make a difference in the air we breathe here.
Yeah, I'm open to whatever, structure
I
makes the
think
most sense.
agendizing it for the next meeting might be the right answer, because
think-
Barbara's also on the
Yeah.
building decarb committee, and my
Right.
guess is she would be down. My travel might change, maybe, or I could just miss a meeting and it would be okay.
Right.
So,
So
or we
maybe-
can change the makeup of the committee. So let's talk about it next time.
Yeah, exactly. Let's
Yeah.
agendize for next time to see if we want to do that, and with the aim being making decarb and the goal into a standing committee, the two together.
Sure.
If everyone had the appetite for it and ability. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
That was my first wimpy request as the chairperson.
Great,
Is that
thank
all
you.
right? Can we please do that? Okay, so now are we at chair and member committee matters? We're at the next meeting. Next meeting is
December 2nd.
On chair and committee member matters, what Anthony brought up was a perfect chair and committee member matter. Or
Right.
anything that someone brings up that wants to agendize in the future, that's a good place for it.
Well done, Anthony.
That's great. I had no idea that's where it went, but
That's why I
Excellent.
called on you. Brilliant. Anything else? Anybody? Matters? Next meeting? Great.
Special meeting on a Monday, December
Are
2nd.
you available for service?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Hopefully.
Yes, I
Excellent.
think,
Yeah, God willing.
Jason, unfortunately, I think you were the only one
singing
who
with-
wasn't able to come, so we just had to do it because we didn't have options.
We need Barbara. All right, well, thank
We
you,
will.
everybody. Thank
Yep.
you. Have a great evening. And thank you. Turn off your monitor. Be kind. Rewind.
they don't do that.